Hello and welcome to more comedy cooking in Laurice's kitchen. Tonight I'm fulfilling a viewer's request for another dessert. After watching Pineapple Twinkie Desserts, Victoria Watkins asked me to replicate a cake her grandmother used to make. Here's the recipe. No, that's not an editing error. There is no recipe. Victoria described this cake to me as a cake with Butterfinger crumbles on the bottom, holes poked in the top, sweetened condensed milk poured over that, and Cool Whip topping all. I predict sugar coma. So let's get started. This is all we're going to need for our cake. Butterfingers, a cake mix, sweetened condensed milk, and Cool Whip. Now, one of the things about comedy cooking here is I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to get. My sweetened condensed milk expired in December. Now, it's actually not that far out of date, but one of the things that happens to sweetened condensed milk, the longer it sits in the can, the thicker it gets. So I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to pour this when time comes. First thing we need to do is crumble our Butterfingers. Now, I could do this the same way. I could take these all out of the wrapper and put them in my food processor. In fact, the easiest thing to do would be to buy Butterfinger crumbles. You can buy those, but I couldn't find them. So I'm going to do this the comedy cooking way. I'm just going to leave them in the bag, in their wrappers, and I'm going to whack them with the robber clobber. Okay, these feel sufficiently pulverized. Next, I'm going to line my cake pan with some parchment paper. Because this is a grandmother's cake recipe, I'm using Grandma's cake pan. That's a 9 by 13 inch cake pan. Now I've treated this with just a little bit of nonstick cooking spray. That'll help the parchment paper to adhere. Once I get that in there, I'm going to go ahead and just give it another light spritz with the cooking spray. I have the oven turned on to 325 degrees, so that'll heat while we put everything together. Now that I've got this lined, we're going to go ahead and dump in all of our Butterfinger crumbles. I used all of them. I probably shouldn't have, but they were all broken up anyway. Alright, next up we got to get that cake batter put together. Okay, let's get this into our cake pan. Okay, this is going in that 325 degree oven for 28 to 33 minutes. I'm going to let this cake rest for 10 minutes before I start poking holes in it. Okay, that actually wasn't so bad. This poured quite well. Now we're gonna let this cake cool completely before we top it with Cool Whip. Otherwise the Cool Whip's just gonna melt. Well, I guess I didn't need to poke the holes quite so big. Hopefully all this Cool Whip will fill it in. This is 8 ounces of Cool Whip. This looks very sweet. Let's get a piece of this cut and taste it. I'm just using my little offset spatula. I don't want to cut through my parchment paper. Let's just separate this a little. Okay. Try to cut a piece. Okay, I'm going to use my flexible spatula to try to get this first piece out. Oh dear. Oh, it looks like all of my Butterfingers are still in the bottom. Well, that's why I have the parchment paper. Again, I'd like to thank Victoria Watkins for this, but I really needed more instructions. Let's give it a taste. Yeah, I'll get a little of this baked done here. That is very good, and it's very sweet.